I want to welcome Candace Zarni, author of the book First Cause. Candace, the resonance principle sounds incredibly profound, but, a bit theoretical until you see it applied in a boardroom. Tell us the story of Elena, which I found fascinating. She's a 44-year-old senior director at a massive cutthroat professional services firm.
Yes, Elena is the quintessential modern high achiever. By every conceivable external metric, she is crushing it. Her team produces stellar results. Her career trajectory is flawless. She makes great money. But internally, she knows she's hitting what the book calls a performance ceiling. Right. She confesses, I know I am not operating anywhere near my actual capacity, not even close. She can see the ceiling above her. And she knows there's a whole other level of leadership she is capable of, but she cannot figure out how to break through it. And what she realizes through this work is that she's making all these complex, exhausting, invisible calculations before every single decision. She's thinking, what will the executive committee approve? What will protect my current position in the hierarchy? How will this make me look to my rivals? She isn't using her genuine strategic intelligence at all. She's using her political survival intelligence. Her actual raw intelligence wasn't even being consulted. It was entirely tied up in managing the noise of the corporate ecosystem.
Wow.
But once she implemented the first cause practice, which allowed her to return to her own knowingness before making a move, before speaking in a meeting, everything shifted. Fundamentally.
You note that her decision-making became radically faster. And what I love is that her team actually noticed the change in her physical presence in the room before she even articulated what she was doing differently.
She just occupied space differently. That is the absolute hallmark of the resonance principle in action. People feel the absence of friction. She didn't go to an expensive MBA seminar to acquire a new leadership skill. She didn't learn a new management framework or a negotiation tactic. She simply removed the interference. She returned to the source of the formidable skill she already possessed.
The friction of the borrowed voices was removed, and her natural capacity flowed effortlessly. She stopped calculating and started leading.
Exactly.
Now, I need to pause here and clarify something because I know the skeptic listening right now is going to hear phrases like inner knowing and natural frequency and immediately think this is just standard repackaged mindfulness or therapy.
Yeah, that's a common misconception.
You are very careful to differentiate this, and we need to do the same. This is not about becoming passive. It's not about just sitting there feeling calm and blissed out while your company or your life burns to the ground around you.
Absolutely not. It is fundamentally about capability and resilience. It is the difference between merely managing your stress symptoms and completely upgrading your neurological operating system.
Let's use a very grounded example.
Think about a hard, emotionally charged conversation with a teenager that is rapidly going sideways.
Oh, the ultimate stress test for any human nervous system. A teenager rolling their eyes.
Right. If you are operating from the crowded mind, your sympathetic nervous system is hijacked. You react to their tone, you feel disrespected, your ego flares up, you get defensive, you escalate your volume, and the situation explodes into a shouting match. Now, if you are practicing standard stress management or basic mindfulness, you might recognize the trigger, take a deep breath, and try to suppress your anger.
You're white-knuckling your way through the interaction, biting your tongue, just trying not to yell.
You appear calm, but internally you are boiling, which is exhausting in its own way. But if you're operating from first cause, if you're aligned with your true frequency, you are responding from a grounded, unshakable inner stability.
You don't take their emotional weather personally because you're anchored in your own truth.
As an adult and a parent, you aren't suppressing anger. The anger simply doesn't manifest because you aren't threatened by a child's mood. You have the genuine capability to handle the complexity and the emotion of the moment without losing your own center of gravity. You remain the adult in the room.
Okay, I hear that. But I have to push back here hard because I can vividly hear the executive or the working parent listening right now saying, look, on-demand capability is a very bold, very attractive promise. Sure, finding my natural frequency sounds amazing, but I have back-to-back Zoom calls from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I have 3 kids to feed. I have an inbox that regenerates like a hydra.
Yeah, the reality of modern life.
I do not have an hour a day to sit on a mountaintop or even in my bedroom trying to commune with my inner voice. And frankly, if I have spent 20 years wiring my brain to survive in corporate America, how on earth is a simple practice going to unravel 2 decades of deep neurological conditioning?
It sounds like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Exactly. How is this an actual daily repeatable skill that stands up to that level of skepticism?
It is the necessary pushback. And if the methodology couldn't answer it, it would just be another self-help platitude. The answer lies in the neuroscience of neuroplasticity and the physics of the minimum effective dose. It is repeatable precisely because it is a physical, measurable repetition. It is a specific protocol that relies on pattern interruption. It does not require a mountaintop. It does not require an hour. It requires exactly 5 minutes.
Okay, let's get into the mechanics. What do you actually do? And critically, how do you measure it? Because the core argument here is that this mechanism relies on a micro-commitment of time, but it's backed by rigorous, almost ruthless data tracking.
Yes, you have to prove to your own deeply skeptical nervous system that the practice is actually altering your baseline.
Exactly. You need empirical data to bypass the skepticism of your own highly rational mind. If you don't measure it, your brain will dismiss any progress as a fluke.
So let's walk through the exact starting protocol. I refer to it as the rep, like a repetition in a gym.
Walk me through the rep. I wake up tomorrow morning, the alarm goes off. What is the exact sequence of events?
5 minutes every morning. That is the non-negotiable baseline. Before you check your phone, before you read the news and let the world's anxiety become yours, before you attend to the demands of your spouse, your kids, or anyone else's schedule, you sit up. The phone is in another room, eyes closed. You place one hand flat on your chest, directly over your heart.
I have to stop you right there. I promised the audience we wouldn't do wellness BS. You have to admit, telling a burnt-out, highly skeptical corporate executive to put their hand on their heart and breathe sounds exactly like the generic crystal healing wellness advice we promised to avoid.
I'm glad you called that out because it's a critical distinction. The hand on the chest is not symbolic. It's not about sending love to yourself.
Okay, then why do it?
It is a calculated, physiological, somatic cue. When you are waking up stressed, all your blood flow and electrical activity is trapped in the prefrontal cortex, spinning in thought loops, right? Thinking about the day ahead. By placing your hand on your chest, you force the brain to process tactile, physical sensation. You are giving the nervous system a focal point that is outside the thought stream. It's a biological pattern interrupt, not a spiritual gesture.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a physical anchor to stop the mental spinning. So, hand on chest, then what?
Then you take 3 slow, very full breaths, expanding the diaphragm, which further signals to the sympathetic nervous system that you are safe. And then, in that newly created quiet, you ask yourself one single question.
What do I know right now?
What do I know right now? And here is the absolute most critical part of the protocol. You do not force an answer. You do not analyze. You do not judge what arises. You are not trying to solve a problem. If you ask the question and the immediate answer that arises is, I am bone-crushingly exhausted, you just notice it. You don't try to fix the exhaustion. If the answer is, I resent my boss, you just let that truth sit there. You simply listen. This creates a protected daily neurological space where the loud, demanding, crowded mind is allowed to recede, and the quiet signal of the first cause can be heard.
It sounds almost too simple. And the skeptic in me says, okay, I noticed. I'm exhausted. Great. How does doing that for 5 minutes at 7 a.m. fundamentally change my capability at 2 p.m. when I'm in a hostile board meeting?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of cognitive resource allocation, it changes everything. When you silence the urgency first thing in the morning, when you deliberately create that gap, you stop the internal competition for your cognitive resources before the day even begins. You aren't just calming down, you are literally reallocating processing power back to your actual intelligence. By making this the very first action of your day, you are actively training your nervous system that you are the primary variable in your life, not the external demands of your inbox.
You establish sovereignty.
Exactly. So here's where I'll leave you. Everything we talked about today starts with one thing: actively training your nervous system that you are the primary variable in your life. That's why I developed a free 5-minute quiz that tells you exactly which reactive pattern runs you when the pressure hits. The one that's been costing you without you ever naming it. Go to consciousnesstrack.app/quiz. Take it before the day gets hold of you. See your pattern. Then you'll know exactly where the work begins.